Well, this is different. I usually don't talk about TV shows, and I really would like to talk about TV more, because there are some great shows on. Game of Thrones is one of them. Maybe not as good as it used to be, but it's still good. Game of Thrones is a show on HBO. You know what it is. Everyone knows what it is. It's really good. Seasons 1 to 4 are absolutely fantastic. Season 6 is really great as well. Season 5 and 7, not so much. We'll get into that. Before I say anything else, there's probably a few of you who have not seen Game of Thrones. If you have not seen Game of Thrones, do not watch this video, because not only will it make no sense to you, I'm gonna spoil everything. So just don't watch this video. Don't even be one of those people who are like, oh, I just want to hear Ralph talk. Just watch Game of Thrones and then come back here. Dickhead. So first let's rank every Game of Thrones season best to worst. And let me explain why those seasons work as well as they do, and why Season 7 falls short. Best to worst, we got Season 3 is the best. Season 4, second. Season 1, third. Season 6, fourth. Season 2, fifth. Season 5, sixth. And Season 7, seventh. How fitting. So what works about Game of Thrones? Lots of deaths, political intrigue, sex, surprising plot twists, a very dark tone, very interesting world, lots of really likable, great characters. Some of them aren't so likable, but they're still interesting.
I'm not tired!
Really great character arcs that take place over years. Some characters don't do anything for 5 seasons, and then they do something. Like Sam, who in the beginning I thought, oh, this kid's just gonna die, and then he actually becomes one of the most important people. The deaths in Game of Thrones are probably the most notable thing, but what makes the Game of Thrones deaths so fantastic, as opposed to a show like The Walking Dead, is that they always feel earned. In Walking Dead, everyone just dies just because the ratings are low and they need something interesting to happen. For example, Robb Stark's death. When you watch the series again, you see why he died. You can trace every single mistake he made that led to him dying. And that's what makes it so satisfying, ultimately. It's not just a thing that happens. And that's something the lesser seasons are lacking. Now we're at the 7th season of Game of Thrones, and I do not want to say this season is bad at all. It is the worst season of Game of Thrones. Very close with the 5th season, which has some pretty bad moments as well.
You want the good girl, but you need the bad pussy.
The 7th season of Game of Thrones has so many great moments, some great episodes, lots of great grand battles, funny dialogue, great character interactions.
Break on. Dick on.
It's cool to see certain characters come together finally, but my god, the writing. So, another reason this show is not as good as it used to be is because it used to be based on George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire novel series. I believe seasons 1 to 4 are like exact copies of his books. Season 5 is kind of his book, but kind of made up as well. And the made up stuff was the worst part, like the bad pussy.
You want the good girl, but you need the bad pussy.
Oh my, like what? Didn't that season win an Emmy? Oh my god. And season 4 didn't? So then I believe season 6 is basically all made up. And the writing, again, kind of falters a little bit. But what season 6 does to make up for the writing is have a lot of things happening. There's a lot of spectacle. We got the Hodor thing. There's Jon Snow coming back to life. Got the Battle of the Bastards, which is the best battle in the show. You got the Winds of Winter episode with Cersei blowing up the Citadel, which was fantastic. You got Jon Snow reveal that he's a Targaryen. So many great moments that it makes up for the writing being a little in some spots, especially everything with Arya, where she gets stabbed 5 times in the gut and she's fine. And I think that's why season 6 managed to be so great, despite the fact that the writing was not as good as the first 4 seasons. Now we get to season 7, which is not based on a book. George R.R. Martin has no influence over this show anymore. I get a sense he doesn't even like the show anymore. I mean, he never talks about it. He says he tries to separate the books from the show, and he keeps talking about this other show, The Last Kingdom, that's like a medieval show. So he's watching that show and he's praising it, but he's not talking or praising Game of Thrones, which is very odd. And he says he doesn't have the time to watch it, but he has the time to watch The Last Kingdom. So you could take that however you want. I think he's not liking where the show is going. And quite frankly, I'm not either. So I'm gonna quit my bitching. Let's explain episode by episode what's wrong here. Episode 1 of this season was I liked the first scene with Arya killing all the Walder Frey people. That was pretty great. It was unexpected. It was fun. It was gruesome. It was everything I love about Game of Thrones. And then after that scene, it was all downhill. There were scenes at like Winterfell where Jon Snow was trying to be the king and Sansa kept butting in.
Then send an emissary, don't go yourself.
I like Sansa a lot as a character. I really liked where her character went. And in the beginning of this season, she's just a whiny brat. Why are you talking over Jon constantly? Like, he's trying to be a leader. Just shut up and tell him afterward if you disagree with him on something. Lady Mormont was great last season. This season, she overstays her welcome a little bit.
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me. I might be small, Lord Glover, and I might be a girl, but I am every bit as much a northerner as you.
We get it. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Can you keep this out of Game of Thrones, please? Speaking of that, this whole episode felt very fan servicey. It felt like it was written by a committee of people. And they're like, we gotta plug in these elements. We gotta have them keep saying, winter is here, winter is here. Every line of dialogue, winter is here. And it's like, we get it. It was committee group writing. And nothing confirms that more for me than the scene with Arya and the Lannister soldiers, where just Ed Sheeran shows up. Oh my god, was he terrible. His stupid face. Oh my god. He has absolutely no screen presence. He can't even, like, look normal.
It's a new one. Are you hungry?
His goofy face. He's like an 11 out of 10 on the monster meter. Keep him out of my Game of Thrones, please. I don't want to see all these stupid celebrities in my Game of Thrones. Ever. I liked everything with Euron this episode. I thought they managed to make him an interesting character. I like how joyful he is and how much he enjoys killing and murdering people, especially his own family. Everything with Cersei and Jaime was good. Everything with the Hound was good, and his little band of brothers. Everything with Sam was great. Him scrubbing out the toilets and feeding all the old people in the Citadel. The way it was directed. The harsh cutting and him, like, vomiting. I thought all that was really fun. Sam had the best character arc the whole season. In a season where everything was so rushed, his storyline really took its time. And then Daenerys arrives at Dragonstone. Oh god, this scene. The scene was great up to a point. There's the point at the end of the episode where she's standing at the table and Tyrion's there and you're like, this is so cool. Don't mess up this moment. And then she goes,
Shall we begin?
shall we begin? Ugh.
Shall we begin?
Ugh. I'm gonna make the scene better, ready? Like, we get it. She made it home. We don't need bad dialogue.
Shall we begin?
You need the bad pussy.
So, needless to say, I had a lot of problems with that first episode. But the second episode, I thought the second episode was really good. It had all the political intrigue I like. It had a really cool battle at the end. It wasn't one of the best battles ever, but you know, it was different. It was a naval battle. There was fire everywhere. We had to see 2 out of the 3 Sand Snake daughters die because they're absolutely the worst characters in the show, and I'm so glad they're gone. We had to see Natalie Manuel naked. I enjoy Grey Worm and Miss Sandy's little romance. I think it's a cute little thing in a show that's so dark and violent and horrible. It's nice that every once in a while there's some nice moments. So I'm glad they included that in there. Hot Pie shows up again. It felt a little fan servicey, but I thought it was a cute moment.
You've been making pies?
One or two.
The only parts that really bothered me are there's a part with Arya and the wolf that was a little like, why is this scene in here? And then Sam and Jorah teaming up to destroy his grayscale. That was a little rushed. Like, they made such a big deal out of this grayscale for 3 seasons, and then Sam just, like, gets rid of it in one night. Stuff like that I could look past. I was completely fine with all these little things.
They say our dragons are bigger than egos.
Horseshit.
Episode 3 was great. The first scene of the episode is Daenerys and Jon meeting up. This is by far the best scene of this whole season. It was funny. It was really cool to see all these characters together, but at the same time, nothing was stupid. Their chemistry wasn't rushed and forced. I liked that they kind of hated each other for a good part of this episode. Davos is brilliant. This is Jon Snow. He's king of the north. After Miss Sandy ran down like this list of accomplishments and titles for Daenerys. I've always thought Emilia Clarke has been an inconsistent actress on this show. Sometimes she's really great. Sometimes she's not so great.
Where are my dragons?
But I think this scene, when she was talking about everything she went through to get to this point.
So many men have tried to kill me. I don't remember all their names. I have been sold like a brood mare. I've been shamed and betrayed, raped and defiled. Do you know what kept me standing through all those years in exile?
That was a really powerful moment. Nothing about this episode felt fan servicey. All of the character interactions were great. The way Cersei killed the Sand Snakes was fantastic. It was cruel. It was dark. I felt really bad for Illyria. And what's the other one's name? Tyene? This one? Even though I hate those characters. And I think the girl who plays Tyene was a really bad actress. And even in that scene, she was bad. Mama. But you know what? It was a sad scene. And it was, again, another great scene of Cersei being a ruthless monster, which is what she is. Bran returned, of course. He went full autismo, basically. I'm starting to enjoy Bran as a character again. I thought he was completely dull for like a few seasons, but now I'm enjoying his I'm a god and I know everything, and I'm just gonna tell everyone off all the time.
Chaos is a ladder.
Like, you can't lie to the kid. He knows everything. I thought it was pretty awesome. And then the episode ends very strong, too, where the Unsullied are going to attack Casterly Rock. And that scene in itself was really cool and exciting. Tyrion narrating over the whole thing. And then the twist that Jaime moved out all of the people in Casterly Rock, all of the military and all of the food and water, and just went to go attack the Tyrells, was a great little twist. I mean, there's the problem with the time scale of, how do you get from Casterly Rock to where the Tyrells are in such a short amount of time? And how did Varys not know this would happen? Because Varys, for the first 4 seasons of the show, knows everything about everyone. And it's weird that none of his spies would tell him this, or that he never figured it out. Maybe he's the spy who gave up where the ships were going that Euron attacked. I don't know. It's like, if you wanted to get rid of that plot hole, you could have just killed Varys. That would have been a surprising death. Why is Varys still around? Like, what's he gonna do? This then leads to Olenna Tyrell's death, the first major death of the season, and she went out, like a champ.
That was Joffrey's sword, wasn't it? Not that he ever used it. What did he call it?
Widow's Wail.
He really was a cunt, wasn't he?
I thought this episode was really great as well. Probably the best episode of this season. Really close with episode 3. Arya returns to Winterfell. The little exchange between Sansa and Arya was great. One side note, I really like the guy who plays the Iron Bank representative. I think his voice is awesome.
Daenerys Targaryen has 3 full-grown dragons. How well do wooden ships fare against fire-breathing dragons?
I like the little drama between Tyrion and Daenerys as well, because really, Tyrion has never been a good military strategist. Ever. The Battle of Blackwater, which is probably the first time he took that position, he really didn't succeed. He had the one trick up his sleeve, which was the wildfire, which did a lot of damage. But then Stannis' forces just kind of came on the beach, and they were basically going to take King's Landing, and they would have if not for Tywin and the Tyrells coming in and saving everyone. Tyrion has never been good at that. Basically, Season 2, all Tyrion does is prepare for that battle. Now, he doesn't have as much time to strategize, and he's dealing with his brother, Jaime, who's a much better strategist than he is. So, it made sense to me that Tyrion would make those dumb mistakes and pay for them. I enjoyed his little conflict with Daenerys, who of course is pissed, because she had basically everything, and she lost it all because Tyrion made some dumb moves. But again, Daenerys wants to go be an idiot and say, I'm just going to take all my dragons and destroy King's Landing. And it was good that Jon Snow, of all people, comes in and says, you can't do that. People already hate you because they see you as a foreign invader that's going to kill everyone. So maybe you should not go into King's Landing and destroy anything, because people will hate you and they'll turn against you. So instead, Daenerys' plan to go in full force and attack the Lannisters on their way back to King's Landing was great. And that battle scene was phenomenal. There was a long take of Bronn in the rubble just being ambushed by this. It's just everything's on fire. And again, it was a little reminiscent of the Battle of the Bastards one take where it's just chaos. And it's a little bit of a ripoff of that, but I was okay with it. I think that scene was so well executed. It was a great footnote on a already really good episode. So you ask me, episode 3, episode 4, by far the best episodes of this season. Really great, full of basically everything I wanted from Game of Thrones. And it was a perfect balance of decent writing, fun little character moments, a little bit of fan service, but it was appropriate. Arya returning to Winterfell, Bran returning to Winterfell, Jon and Daenerys meeting, and really great battle scenes that were appropriate. So I was like, you know what? Episode 1 was a little weak, but this season has really picked up since. Episode 2 is pretty good. Episode 3 and 4 are great. Let's see where this goes. What a disaster. So the episode doesn't start out... Actually, no, the episode does start out bad. I thought the ending of the last episode was really cool, having Jaime sink to the bottom, and I felt like, wow, Jaime might be dead. I mean, he has that heavy hand that's made of gold. Plus, he has all that heavy armor. He's just going to sink to the bottom of the ocean. In Game of Thrones proper, that would be Jaime's death. But in this season, of course, everyone's invincible. So Jaime just plops up on the beach. It's like, how'd you get all that armor off of him? You didn't even... What? How did you survive that? How did no one see that and go like, there's Jaime Lannister, the most important guy on the battlefield. Let's go get him right now. Jaime and Bronn sunk, took off all that armor, and then swam. It looked like 2 miles they swam. Jaime Lannister swam there with one hand. Okay. And of course, Randall and Dickon Tarly survive because they're important to the plot as well. We can't just have them die randomly on the battlefield. We need them for this plot point. This scene I liked. Randall Tarly going, I'm not bowing down to you. I have honor. And then she kills both of them. They both made good points. Tyrion was like, you shouldn't have wiped out their entire family line because they didn't do one thing. And Daenerys was like, listen, they didn't want to bow to me, and I'm a woman of my word. So if they're not going to bow to me, and I say I'm going to kill them, I'm going to kill them. Otherwise, no one's going to respect me. The problem with the episode is everything else. Oh my god, Tyrion's plan. We gotta talk about that first. So Tyrion's plan to convince Cersei to fight with them is to go to the north, capture a White Walker,
or an undead guy,
and then bring him back. I don't feel guilty about thinking this anymore, because episode 7 proved me right, but Tyrion should know better than anyone that Cersei will not care. Even if Cersei were to see the dead people, she'd go, I'm not gonna help you. I'm just gonna watch you fight the White Walkers, and then I'll destroy everything behind you. That's obviously what Cersei's gonna do. And to think that Tyrion would be so dumb as to trust her is just it's just silly. Cersei's very stubborn and very much up her own ass. Like, she would never help you. And if she were, that would be unrealistic and not in her character at all. And just the plan itself to go to the north and get a White Walker and then bring it all the way back. I think that would take too long, honestly. And how you know the White Walker won't die on the way, or the Night King can just, you know, turn off his power like that. There's so many variables to it. There has to be a better way of doing it. So, whatever, plan, but I'll buy into it, fine. We go into King's Landing, and they manage to arrive there in a minute. I looked up the map afterward, and Dragonstone and King's Landing are actually not that far from each other. However, in medieval times, or the show's time, whatever, it probably took a while. I remember Stannis Baratheon was stationed in Dragonstone, and he had his whole fleet. I believe they left around episode 6 or 7, and then they didn't arrive there till episode 9. Like, that's how long it took to get there, even from Dragonstone. Oh, we're gonna take a little boat. Oh, we're here. And they just wash up on the side of the shore. No one sees them. And they sneak into the crypt. Like, it's the most secure place you could... how did you get in the crypt without anyone noticing? I know Bronn helped you, but there were no guards. There was nothing. No security. This is the queen. Couldn't someone just sneak in there and execute Cersei? Like, assassinate her and then leave? Then we get Jaime and Tyrion talking, which was a nice moment. But... Tyrion goes, you gotta convince Cersei to do what we want to do. And of course, Jaime's like, what am I gonna do? Meanwhile, Davos goes just in the city somewhere and finds Gendry. And Gendry just shows up, and you're like, what's Gendry doing?
Never knew what for, but I've always known I'd know it when it comes.
I guess Gendry was bored. Alright, Gendry, Tyrion, and Davos are all about to go on the boat, and then the two guards show up, and Davos tries to smooth talk them, and Tyrion's trying to, you know, get in the boat, and then Gendry just kills both of them. Glad we spent so much time on this pointless scene. And then 10 more seconds go by, and Davos and Gendry and Tyrion are back at Dragonstone. And then here's the kicker. Jon Snow's like, alright, I guess I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna bring Jorah Mormont with me, who just shows up out of nowhere. And they have a little moment where they hug.
Jon Snow, this is Sir Jorah Mormont.
So then Jorah, Gendry, and Jon Snow go to the north, and they run into Tormund, who of course wants to go with them. They run into the Hounds and the Brotherhood, and they're like, we'll go with you to go get this White Walker.
Or an undead guy.
That's what the writers are telling us to. I mean, that's what the gods want us to do. And then that's the end of the episode. You're sending the King of the North, on a suicide mission to get a White Walker?
Or an undead guy.
I can buy into characters on the show deciding we need to go get a White Walker or one of those undead people and bring them back over the wall. And I can buy that Tyrion might think that Cersei might collaborate with them if they bring back a dead person. I cannot buy that Jon Snow, the King of the North, the most important person in Westeros, the most important person on the show, would risk his life to do something that might not even work. It was so dumb, and I was so annoyed by it. And then we get episode 6, and it's just characters talking for the first half hour. None of it means anything.
They told me you were mean. Were you born mean, or you just said wildlings?
I don't give two shits about wildlings.
Gingers I hate.
It's just them talking, and it's entertaining. You know, the Hound and Gendry have a great little moment. Tormund and the Hound have a great moment. Then Jon Snow is talking to Jorah about his sword. It's like they didn't talk about this on the boat ride there. What did they do on that boat the whole time? They just sat there and didn't talk to each other? In Game of Thrones proper, that boat ride from Dragonstone to the north would have taken at least 4 episodes. But we gotta rush everything and get to here. I hear the complaint a lot that this season was rushed, and I agree with that. Episode 4 and 3, I felt it a little bit. Episode 5 and 6, I felt it a lot. Especially with people going extremely long distances. It's ridiculous. And then we get, oh my god, Sansa and Arya's horrible. I didn't even mention that in the last episode. We're going back to episode 5 now. Arya and Sansa's little drama, their little rivalry, makes absolutely no sense. And the only thing I figured is, like, maybe they're lying about it to trick Littlefinger into thinking they're turning against each other. And then I thought, why would they have to do that? Just kill Littlefinger. You don't have to, like, trick him. What if we make him think that we hate each other? And then in the end, we turn, like, what? Just kill him! And then it's revealed later that they were actually they weren't really fighting. They were fighting just because they thought Littlefinger was watching them? You could have just killed Littlefinger in episode 5, and that would have been the end of it. Where was Bran during all of this? If you are gonna trick Littlefinger into thinking that you two have a rivalry, then why not show the audience it? Because I think it would have been much more interesting to see how Sansa, Arya, and Bran team up to defeat Littlefinger, instead of just watching this boring, petty rivalry between the two of them. Like, Arya's complaining Sansa wrote a note and betrayed her family. Arya was, like, with Tywin Lannister for an entire season, and she didn't do anything. She literally could have killed him right there, but she chose not to.
On the Sansa end of the relationship, he's seen the opening, and now all he needs to do is give Arya cause to display real rage towards Sansa, and he knows full well that with what's going on in Sansa's head further with regards to Arya and how dangerous she is, when Arya...
It was just frustrating to watch. And then Littlefinger's him hiding behind the corner going like, so corny. So back to episode 6 now. So episode 6, we get more of the same, except this time, Arya is threatening Sansa. Arya obviously isn't going to kill Sansa. Obviously. There was no tension in that scene at all. Arya is one of my favorite characters. Why are you ruining her with this petty nonsense? Even knowing the episode 7 twist that they were in on it, I was watching that episode like, that's the only thing that could be possible here, because this is so dumb. Then we get back to the north. They kill the White Walker. It's revealed that the zombies all fall down and die when you kill the White Walker, which I'm not too sure how I feel about that. If you kill these 5 White Walkers, you kill the entire army of the dead. It felt very like we have to write ourselves out of a hole. We can't have our characters kill 100,000 dead people. So if you kill these 5 people, you'll be fine. It was like the end of Avengers, where they didn't know how to, get rid of all the aliens attacking the city. So if you kill the main bad guy, all the aliens just die. They tell Gendry to run off because one of the undead yells and attracts the attention of the rest of the army of the dead, and they come in. And then they're ambushed on the lake, and they're stuck in the middle of the lake, and there's an army of dead around them. Gendry runs from it's like probably a little south of Hardhome all the way to the wall in a minute, and then he faints, and they send a raven, and the raven goes to Dragonstone. Let's assume the instant the raven arrives, either Varys or Tyrion get it, and then Daenerys reads it, and then Daenerys has to make the decision to help them. She rides her dragon back to a little south of Hardhome, north of the wall, and attacks. There's probably some guy on the Game of Thrones forums who did the exact math of how long that would take, but I'm assuming it would take a while. Oh my god, the polar bear? Why was that scene in there? Again, it was fine for what it was, but they could have spent that time developing a better plotline going on somewhere else.
What we had to go through to get the zombie polar bear was writing the zombie polar bear into every season of the show for about 4 seasons.
We thought they'd be so excited to do a zombie bear, and it's kind of like, oh my god, they're serious about doing this fucking zombie bear.
We cannot afford a zombie polar bear. This year made perfect sense that you could have one of these things out there, and we really put our 4 feet down, and we said, God damn it, we want a zombie polar bear.
Why? They constructed like this entire lake set, probably cost millions of dollars. Jon Snow is there, and there's 1,000 extras.
It's an amazing set. They cemented a whole quarry to flatten it out to make it look like an ice lake.
Did these guys realize what makes Game of Thrones good? What makes Game of Thrones good is not a White Walker polar bear.
God damn it, we want a zombie polar bear.
Or a big lake set, or thousands of extras. What makes it good are great characters making smart decisions, doing really smart things. And again, it's a fantasy show, but even in that, all the politics and the way the characters act and the way it's played is very realistic. In Game of Thrones proper, all of those guys would have been dead. Jon Snow would have never gone there, because that's not Jon Snow's place to be. He has bigger responsibilities. He's the king of the North. And they all probably would have died. In actuality, I think this is in the books. I read somewhere this is in the books, that they are constantly sending wildlings and the Night's Watch up to the north to capture White Walkers and the undead and bring them back down south to do research on them. So why hasn't that been done? That should have been Jon Snow's first decree as King of the North. I want the Night's Watch and these guys, these wildling guys, to go up to the north, set a few traps, dig a hole, get an undead person in it, and then get a net and bring him out, instead of sending 3 guys on a suicide mission and going in the middle of, like, a horde. And then bringing them back, and we'll ship them over to Daenerys, and we'll ship them over to Cersei, and we'll ship them over to the Maesters over in Old Town, but no one does any of that. We're gonna send the King of the North north of the Wall, and then we're gonna obviously get captured because it's such a dumb plan. And then we're gonna send dragons over there. And Tyrion's absolutely right. Tyrion said, don't go help them. Because now the Night King has a dragon with him, and that's how he's gonna get past the wall. I think if they had just left it the way it was, they would have never been able to get across the wall, because the wall's not only this big thing of ice, the White Walkers can't swim. The wall's also covered in magic, so the White Walkers probably couldn't do anything to it. But we need to get the dragon there, because it needs to be a scene. But the dragon shows up with Daenerys, and she shows up 5 seconds after they send the Raven, because we need that to happen for the plot to work. And then the dragon dies, which was actually a great scene. I wasn't expecting the dragon to die at all, and I thought it made the White Walkers even more menacing. I also wasn't expecting the dragon to come back as an undead person. The scene could have been handled better because White Walkers can't swim, and they have metal chains which they got from God knows where, and they pull the dragon out of the water. So the dragon dies. Daenerys is like, oh my god. And then Jon Snow just runs away from the dragon and fights a bunch of random guys. And then Daenerys, of course, has to leave, and she should have. Jon Snow should have counted on the dragon, and she leaves with everybody. Of course, no one died in that episode, no one that you actually like. That's convenient, because the Night King could have immediately just thrown a spear at this dragon and killed them all, but instead he throws it at the dragon flying 100 feet in the air, and he hits it. Also, Dany could have just killed the Night King right here, and that would have ended the whole war, and she could have taken the throne. I guess she didn't know. I guess she was a little sad that the Night King threw a spear. But Drogon could have just turned around and just blasted him, but he didn't. If you had never gone there, they wouldn't have a dragon. Did you think about that, Jon? Did you think maybe the best thing to do would just be, fortify the wall? Because how are they going to get past the wall? What are they going to do? What are they going to shoot arrows at it? Jon really is just an idiot. Of course, Jon Snow's screwed. And then the worst part of the episode, worst part of the season, maybe the worst part of the series aside from the bad pussy. Benjen Stark comes out of nowhere and goes, take my horse, and then he fights like 2 guys and then he dies. We've been waiting for their reunion for so long. You didn't have to necessarily give them a satisfying reunion, because Game of Thrones is so not about that. Arya Stark almost got a nice reunion with her mother and Robb Stark, but that never happened. It felt like we have absolutely nothing to do with Benjen Stark anymore. So we'll write him into this random scene that makes no sense, take Jon, put him on a horse that he could easily fit on as well, and Benjen's just gonna fight 2 guys and die. So now Benjen's probably part of the army of the dead now. Benjen Stark, of all people. Why not have Benjen Stark die in season 6 trying to save Bran? I think that would have been much better. Or have Benjen Stark be there from the beginning of the episode. Like they're walking to go get an undead guy, and while they're walking there, instead of having that stupid scene with the polar bear that probably cost $2 million to do.
God damn it, we want a zombie polar bear.
It could have had a scene where Benjen Stark shows up and goes like, hello, I'm Benjen Stark. And then Benjen Stark, you know, is fighting everyone off, and then he dies in that scene. It's not great, but it's much better than what they did there. And they put Jon Snow in a bed. Daenerys is talking to him. Jon Snow calls her Dany.
Thank you, Dany.
Dany.
And then he bends the knee. Alright. You absolutely have the right to like that episode and like those scenes and think it's fine. But I've rewatched the first 3.5 seasons of Game of Thrones recently. Because I just wanted to get caught up. And those seasons, especially compared to this, it's so much better. The writing and the comedy and the every play that everyone does, it's so smart and interesting.
I intend to serve as Hand of the King until my father returns from the war. And seeing as you betrayed the last Hand of the King, well, I just wouldn't feel safe with you lurking about.
What are you... My friends at court will not allow this.
Come on! I plan to wed Princess Marcella to Robin Arryn of the Vale. Lysa is not fond of me, but perhaps the promise of a royal match will convince her to let bygones be bygones.
There's the episode where Tyrion's trying to figure out who works for Cersei in the kingdom. He gives Grand Maester Pycelle some information, and he gives Littlefinger some information, and he gives Varys some information, and he tries to see who tells Cersei the information. But each piece of intel is different, because he wants to see who would give that intel to Cersei.
I'm brokering an alliance with House Martell of Dorne. Princess Marcella will wed their youngest son when she comes of age.
And then he finds out it's Grand Maester Pycelle, and he makes him pay for it. Like, that was so smart and funny and cool. And now what do we have? We have scenes of guys fighting random undead zombies that aren't interesting. We have Deus Ex Machina, which is something that George R.R. Martin hates. We have characters who have been around since the beginning that just die for no reason. Episode 5 and 6 are everything wrong with what Game of Thrones has become now. I would take 10 episodes of Tyrion and King's Landing doing little tricky things to people over an hour of just people fighting zombies that's not interesting at all. And again, that violin keeps showing up. They better stop with that. Episode 7, definitely back on track again. This is not a great episode. It's good though. I thought the first half hour was great. I was enjoying all the interplay between the characters. I was enjoying the politics. We see all these different personalities clash. The acting in that episode was absolutely phenomenal, especially Lena Headey as Cersei, who's always been fantastic. The scenes between Jaime and Cersei were great. I genuinely thought Jaime was gonna die. I love Cersei's plan. She tells them everything they want to hear. Oh, of course I'll work with you. Cersei would never do that. And of course, 2 scenes later, she's like, of course I'm not working with them.
Are you a traitor or an idiot?
You pledged our forces to fight our common
I'll
enemy.
say whatever I need to say to ensure the survival of our house.
I'm gonna tell them that, and while they're fighting in the north, I'll be in the south taking everything over. That's great! Euron running away like a bitch made no sense, but of course Euron's lying, and he's, you know, getting his navy ready and fighting. That's Game of Thrones right there. Not this. I really enjoyed the scene of Jon Snow having sex with his aunt. I don't know, there's just something about the execution of the scene that makes it funny. It's not nearly as well executed as the reveal in Season 6. In Season 6, they pretty much did it without dialogue. The directing and editing here was fantastic, and the music's just the icing on the cake. It was beautiful. And now it's just like, we gotta spoon feed all those idiots who watch the show in a bar and have no idea what's happening.
Rhaegar didn't kidnap my aunt or rape her.
And I enjoyed the scene where the wall fell. That was appropriate action. Part of me wishes they hadn't revealed that the dragon came back to life in episode 6. I think it would have been more effective if in episode 7 you see the army of the dead and you see the White Walkers come in and you're like, oh man, they're at the wall. And then you just see the dragon and you're like, oh my god! And still, seeing the Night King ride a dragon is so awesome. That's appropriate spectacle. It's okay for the creators of the show to throw in fan service like the Night King riding a dragon. I'm okay with that, as long as it's appropriate to the plot and it's not stupid. This was stupid.
God damn it, we want a zombie polar bear.
So that's the season of Game of Thrones. It's not a disaster. There's a lot of really good things about this season. We have 2 really great episodes, in my opinion. Some people hate these episodes. I don't know why. Obviously, they're not the Red Wedding or the Purple Wedding or Oberyn versus the Mountain levels of good. That battle in episode 4 of Jaime being attacked by the dragon, I thought all of that was as good as Hardhome or Battle of Bastards or anything like that. The acting here, like it always is phenomenal. Emilia Clarke, I think, really shined this season. I think that Kit Harington does a good job as Jon Snow. He's not great, but he's good. Peter Dinklage is always great. Lena Headey's always great. Macy Williams is fantastic. And even when Arya was acting like such a little brat, I still thought she sold it. Sansa's a good actress too. I don't hate her in the role. She's definitely good. I just don't think she's, great. I thought the guy who played Littlefinger was fantastic, especially in the scene where he died. That was really satisfying. I don't know how okay I am with Littlefinger being outsmarted by Arya and Sansa. Alright. Littlefinger and Varys are the smartest people in the show. So, I don't know why Littlefinger, who can basically see every outcome coming, wouldn't be at least suspicious of that, like I was through that whole thing. I also had a problem, no one utilized Bran at all, even though he could see everything. I mean, I guess Bran didn't explain what he was. I don't know why he doesn't explain it, and why is he not telling anyone about Jon not being Ned's son?
No one knows. No one but me. Jon isn't really my father's son.
Why are you telling Sam, not your sisters? They'll use him more next season, I guess. There's lots of really great comedy in here. Euron's a great, entertaining character.
Does she like it gentle or rough? A finger in the bum.
Everything with Bronn is always funny. Bronn is such a great character. And that's really what holds this season up. It's not anything this season does in particular. It's that the 6 seasons before it have so many great characters and elements that this season continues. Anything new they introduce in this season, it just doesn't work. The plot of Arya and Sansa and Littlefinger falls completely flat. Episode 5 moves way too fast. Episode 6 moves way too slow. The jumps in time make no sense. This season could have been 10 episodes. I understand these episodes cost a lot of money. You could have done 8 episodes. It felt like they had no time to do anything and they were rushing it along, but at the same time they were focusing on the wrong things, so it ends up feeling like nothing really happened. It wasn't shocking, it wasn't dark, it was just, it felt very much like we're going through the motions now. Jon and Dany's romance was okay. Not that I'm against them being together. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Daenerys has just had men kiss her ass for the past 7 years. You always tell her she's beautiful, she's a perfect queen, she's perfect in every way. And I guess she finds Jon attractive because he's not that impressed by her, and he's not constantly flirting with her. He's got stuff to do. And I guess that just makes her wet. And then Jon acts like an idiot and almost gets himself killed, and then Daenerys saves him, and I guess that makes him like her. So I guess they're perfect for each other. Fine. Lack of consequences is one of the biggest problems with this season. People do stupid things and get themselves in stupid situations, and there's no consequences for any of it. Jon has been making dumb decisions for 7 years now, and he has yet to suffer consequences for any of it. Usually because a woman smarter than him saves him.
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me.
Oh my god, we got it. Thanks. Oh, I just remember this. Another bad thing about this season. Theon. Oh my god. That scene in episode 7 of him getting kicked in the nuts and he doesn't hurt, even though it would hurt. That scene was so bad. Now they respect him. He abandoned his sister. He killed 2 kids. He has no dick, but you respect him because he beat up this random guy? Oh, what the hell was that? That could have been another fun thing this season. Have Theon go on the boat with Davos and Tyrion to King's Landing, and then Theon tries to rescue her on his own. Or something like that. I don't know. I'm not the writer of this, alright? Who the hell would follow Theon Greyjoy? I did like the scene where Jon Snow was on the beach with Theon, and I thought he was gonna kill him. The scene where Jon's like, you're a Greyjoy and a Stark.
You don't need to choose. You're a Greyjoy. And you're a Stark.
Alright, I didn't know that. That's what made Theon change his mind? It's hard to describe this one, but just the dialogue doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like the characters talking. It's like a committee of people trying to like guess how certain characters would talk without really understanding them. And so much of the dialogue is just them describing events that have already happened in the show.
You wanted to be a queen. To sit next to a handsome young king on the Iron Throne.
Your father gave me this sword.
When I was Ramsay's prisoner, Yara tried to save me.
Last time I was here, I killed my father with a crossbow.
Last time I was here, you killed my son with wildfire.
With the faces I can choose, I can become someone else.
The dragons are my children.
The violence on the show is so tame now. There's hardly any sex. Game of Thrones is just too big for its own good now. They gotta appeal to the dumb masses who can't keep track of all these names and all this shit. Gone are the days of intelligent dialogue and clever military tactics and political tactics. Now we just get episode after episode of action schlock. Action in this show doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but you can at least do it well in a way that makes sense. What made Game of Thrones special is that it ignored all the conventions of not just fantasy, but of television and storytelling. Main characters would die constantly, multiple narrative threads taking place miles apart from each other. War is complicated, and there are no clear good guys, and there are no clear bad guys. But now we're out of ideas, and much like the Unsullied, HBO and these hack writers have just cut off the show's balls. There's no more death, no more morally gray characters, no more scenes of children getting beaten and burned alive. They just churn out fan service so that drunk idiots watching the show in a bar can cheer every 5 fucking seconds. I'm not saying the show has always been perfect, because it hasn't. It's always had bad acting, and boring storylines, and confusing teleportation and plot holes. But it was groundbreaking storytelling, and we were able to put all that aside, because we knew that if we let our guard down, some crazy shit would happen. Even a boring storyline like Daenerys and Quarth in Season 2, is that how you pronounce it? Quarth? Was more interesting than 90% of the plots this season. I don't think this show's too far gone. The show is still entertaining as hell. Even at its worst, it's still better than most movies. It's just not nearly as intense or intelligent as it used to be. Whatever. Now if you'll excuse me, gotta catch up on Mountain Monsters. Bye.